Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the Superintendent's Report. I'm Carol Birdsong, and joining me for our discussion is Williamson County School Superintendent Jason Golden. We had a school board meeting last night as we record this, and so we'll talk about the action of the school board and all things that we hope you need to know as we move into the end of this school year and into summer break. So, can you believe we are 1 week away, basically, from the end of the school year?
Well, our tradition is to do these meetings once a month right after the board meeting. And as we sit here today, we have about a week of school left.
That's it.
Actually, after today, it's 5.5 days
That's
for
right.
the students.
Finals are kicking in for students.
Well, that's right. And students have already taken their end of course test through the state process because the state has to get the data back so that we can put it into report cards. And so we've really been going through the last few weeks of that end of the year work. It's that mix of excitement and nervousness. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about it at the board meeting, but oh wow, what a great year our students have had. It has been a really good year in so many ways.
And we did talk about this at the school board meeting, though, last night. We bragged on the fine arts showcase that Mark Kinzer put on, and we had 13 of our seniors in all aspects of the arts perform. That was a couple weeks ago, and it was phenomenal.
So Mark Kinzer is our district-wide arts coordinator. He was a band director at both Ravenwood and Fairview High earlier in his career. And he borrowed an idea that got started a few years ago with our athletics. We do an event for our athletics
called the Wilcos. That'll happen in June.
And you think about the ESPYs, and so many high schools and colleges have borrowed that concept athletically. Well, we have started that for the arts. And we did a senior showcase. We had 13 specific performances. A little over 20 students were specifically awarded for excellence in their areas of art, and it was great. The spectrum of our art programs were represented by these excellent students. It was really an uplifting event. And I got to tell you, for those who are watching this who know you really well, Carol Birdsong is the voice of WCS. She's the one who sends out the announcements when we have inclement weather days. So Carol's quite popular. One of the things that Carol, I'm just telling you like it is.
Okay.
When you get to inclement weather days, and Carol hosted the event, the fine arts event. And Carol actually said once or twice that she was at a loss for words because of the power of those performances.
I'm going to tell you, I could not come up with the right adjectives to best describe, and so I just kind of stood there, which was I couldn't come up with the right thing to say. I still can't. It was just so impressive, and I love the fine arts anyway, and it was just amazing.
I will tell you, sometimes the value in that when you see a performance like that is to just be quiet.
That's true.
You're
right.
To jump back to the sports, there's an old story about, I think it's Vin Scully, when a home run is hit, sometimes he just sits quietly because of the spectacle of it, even though he was doing radio. I felt a similar feeling with those arts performances.
It was very nice. So congrats to all of those students and their teachers, because they got to bring a teacher that they wanted to honor, or more than one, and it was wonderful. Okay, we did touch on that. We didn't touch on this, but as we wrap up the school year, it's graduation time. So graduation ceremonies, they're happening.
We're doing our graduation ceremonies this year, and you think back, and I hate to use the term COVID, but I think back about those years. You may remember 2 years ago, the governor asked all schools to close, so we didn't have those events until much later. And we did our high school graduations programs in the fall that year, right before school started, if I remember right. Something, I may be confused. But in any event, one year we had them all at the Agricultural Center, the Williamson County Ag Center. Last year, we had our events on our high school campuses by and large, because many of the venues said they could not host where we traditionally went before COVID. Well, most of our schools had such a good experience on campus that they've decided to do that again. It feels like home. And there's been a lot of push towards doing those events on campus. We actually have 2 schools who are going to be going back to those venues, one at Belmont, one at Lipscomb, and that's Ravenwood and Brentwood respectively. But most of our other schools are going to be doing it on their campus. So now we've got the variable of weather that we're hoping
Fingers
for.
crossed for good weather, but yes, that's going to be. That'll be nice. They were beautiful. It really was beautiful. I think I covered Independence last year and on their football field, and it was just a beautiful sight, sunset, and it was very nice. So a couple other things that we want to celebrate before we get into other aspects of the meeting. We actually have a national championship. This is the first for actually Ravenwood High School and for Williamson County Schools, and that's JROTC Robotics. And that's just impressive.
The JROTC program at Ravenwood High School won a national championship in that JROTC robotics, and it's pretty amazing.
It's called In Tipping Point, and as I said last night to the board, you need to go look at In Focus and read exactly what tipping point is, because that was what it was. But so impressive to get that kind of national recognition. And I know that one of the students is already has been awarded several $100,000 in scholarships to pursue that field.
We make it a point to celebrate national and state championships at our board meeting. We are blessed with so many high-performing students that's something we can do. So many other districts don't have that capacity. This is an unusual one. You mentioned it was the first time. I also want to mention this is the JROTC program. We had a celebration last week for our students who were entering the U.S. military. All 5 branches, including the Coast Guard, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, U.S. Coast Guard. And, I talked about nervous and exciting time for our students this time of year with testing. Likewise, that event is that same, because we have young adults committing to serve our country. And there are so few who serve so many, and we spoke to that at that event. Our JROTC programs are powerful in the work that they do, and I'm very proud of what happened at Ravenwood.
So you can watch that ceremony, see pictures and such in today's In Focus. So if you're not signed up to receive In Focus, please do so, because we share lots of information about Williamson County Schools in that email newsletter. Comes right to your inbox. But yes, and our parents love that their students are being honored for going into the military. Wonderful ceremony. Last night we also honored 10 students who earned perfect ACT composite score during spring testings. They were from Brentwood, Ravenwood, and Franklin. Also, one of my favorites last night, National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. That is the organization that does the Emmys. We had 9 awards given to our students, earned by our students in that competition, and they move on then to national competitions. So quite exciting for those students.
So Carol, if I'm not mistaken,
yes.
With what I'm thinking of as the high school Emmys, I know that's not quite right. They actually won the region, which is more than just Tennessee.
It is Tennessee, North Carolina. I can't remember. It's
so many of them were already state winners. They won the region, and now they're going to nationals.
No, there's not a state competition.
There's not a state competition?
It's just a region.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they base it on market, and so much like the Emmys, right?
Okay.
So but quite exciting for them. DECA students were awarded, and then we had 4 staff members awarded with the Country Music Association Music Teachers of Excellence, and we've had several of our music teachers honored in the past, and 4 more this year. Elena Gallus, who is at Edmondson and was our elementary teacher of the year. Tiffany Turner from Brentwood Middle. I'm just going to read the names off, and I've got to get my cheat sheet out. Evan Burton at Page Middle, and Michael Holland at Nolensville. So congratulations to those teachers as well.
You know, we have three main focus points in our mission statement, and it's to create an environment to challenge students to excel in academics, athletics, and the arts. And we actually create a supportive environment for them to do that. We've spoken to arts, we've spoken to academics. Athletics traditionally come just a little bit after the school year ends, the spring sports. So we expect in June we'll be talking about this again.
I know a lot of students have qualified to go on to the state competition. So, and that process is still ongoing. So yeah, probably when we're here in June, we'll talk about athletics for sure. So let's talk about some of the, I guess, meat, if you will, of the board meeting. And maybe one of the most important things that happened was that the board did approve pay charts for next year. That is an annual agenda item for certified and classified employees. So talk about that, please.
Well, number one, there's a stereotype about teacher pay, and the stereotype is there because it's real. Of so many professions in this country, teacher pay is a real challenge. I think it's in part because we do rely on tax funds because it's something that our nation is committed to, public education. And I know that that's one of the key differences between us and so many other nations in this country. It's that commitment. But what comes with that is that challenge with teachers' pay. Our market in the metro Nashville area in Middle Tennessee is changing. We're growing fast, especially in the last few months. There has been inflation. But we know in Williamson County, especially, given the high quality of the work that we do, we need to recruit those high quality teachers. The number of teachers nationally is shrinking. And so the competition is getting more and more challenging. At the beginning of this school year, we're sitting here in the spring. Last fall, our starting pay for zero experience, fresh out of school, bachelor's with a teaching license was 68 statewide out of 147 school districts.
Ranked.
Ranked. Thank you.
Not a dollar figure.
No, the dollar figure was 68th among all public school systems in Tennessee. We were behind. We made a big push for that, and we have been able to increase that teacher pay close to $5,000 from one year to the next. So that's a big step. Likewise, the master's has gone up as well. So a master's level for next year, assuming our budget passes with the commission in just a few weeks, will be starting at zero experience with a master's at $49,500. We have a long way to go, but that's a significant step from where we were. The board set a goal for me and for us to address market conditions with our funding. And I'll tell you how we were able to do it. You know, we have about 3,200 teachers. When you talk about a pay raise for, it's close to $5,000 for the zero experience, we've had some similar increases across the board with another emphasis on the most experience for those teachers who've been off the chart and haven't grown like some of their peers. We've been able to do it because sales tax has gone beyond budget. One reason for that is because we're out of COVID by and large in this community and people are back spending. Another issue is prices have gone up, and when prices go up, the sales tax revenue increases. So it's important to me to continue to emphasize that as the sales tax revenues increase, because prices are going up, it's important for us to pass that on to our teachers who are feeling the impact of those cost increase.
Okay. Let's talk about the classified side of the house too, because we know we cannot make it also without our classified employees. Those are bus drivers, cafeteria workers, teacher assistants, and we've worked to increase those salaries as well.
Thank you for that. And some of the classified positions or professionals, I think about our electricians and our plumbers. All that work that is necessary to support such a large organization, we've made a big push for those pay increases as well. One of the things we were able to do related to pay directly back in February, and we were able to have a mid-year pay increase. In working with county government, we gave everyone who's on an hourly rate $1 an hour pay increase. And the percentage increase for that, for some of our folks, was in the double digits, low double digits with a $1 an hour pay increase. We've increased a number of those positions in pay as well for market conditions. And I got to tell you, it's government. We're still behind many of the private providers. We're becoming more responsive than we've ever been, but we still have some work to do. I anticipate in this coming budget year, we may make another adjustment if we can afford it based on our revenues, because we know the market's changing quickly.
So we're hiring. It's hiring season in Williamson County Schools. Give a plug.
We are hiring, and I know that most everyone in this good economy as we are growing, that most everyone's hiring. We have a great culture here at WCS, and if you're looking for a good culture with a mission that gives direct service to students, to the next generation, that's already doing some amazing things, this is the place to be. And it's interesting. We have a mix of new career folks who are very young, and those who have retired from other jobs and are coming in to do the work. So no matter where you are, if you're looking for something valuable to do that you can go home and say, I did something good for someone today, we encourage you to come to WCS.
And I will say, go to www.wcs.edu and go over to the top right-hand side, I believe, of the front page of our website and select careers and just go through the process. You do need to apply online, but you can see all the job vacancies and ways to apply. So come join the team. We're hiring. All right. Let's talk about the PECA Memorandum of Understanding. People are going, what in the world is that?
So every industry, every profession lives by acronyms. PECA is the Professional Educators Collaborative Conferencing Act. What that really is the discussion that we have with our teachers about the basics of their relationship with us, and there's an old discussion. It's kind of a negotiated contract with the teachers. We don't have teacher unions in Tennessee, but we do have organizations. We have associations. We have a relationship with our teacher leaders where we define the details of that relationship, and so our MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, defines pay issues, benefits, working conditions, the basics that those who've been involved in large organizations would relate to. So every 3 years, the teachers go through a process to ask themselves, do I want to have an MOU with WCS? And the teachers have an opportunity to say yes or no. If there are enough that say yes under the state standards, then we go and meet with teacher leaders that are selected based on a survey that all our teachers do. We've had a really good relationship with those who are selected by our teachers over the course of years. And once again, we have an MOU in place. We post that on our website, and it helps define the relationship. It helps eliminate or at least reduce confusion, reduce those misunderstandings, because we've worked it out in writing. So
that's an annual agenda item, correct?
We do it annually.
Okay.
The teachers decide every 3 years, and then in those mid-years every year we talk about pay, we talk about working conditions, we talk about benefits, because some of that may change over the course of years.
Mm-hmm. But the reality is, and for our viewers who don't know this, you do meet once a month with representatives, and then more regularly with the executive.
Yeah, we have some formal meetings that we put on our calendar ahead of time, where I meet once a month with all the building leaders. Every school. Yeah, for the WCA, the Education Association, there's a building leader, and we meet once a month. It's formal in the sense that it's on our calendar when we predate it. It's not formal from an agenda perspective. The WCA represents the vast majority of teachers who have selected a representative in Williamson County. And so we honor each other by having regular conversations. Likewise, I meet with the president and the vice president about once a month, and of course, ongoing conversations as issues come up.
Okay, very good. You got evaluated last night. Formally, it was adopted. So, congratulations on your evaluation.
Well, thank you. The state has a structure where all superintendents are evaluated annually in a very well-defined public process, and so we've gone through that process. What I've really appreciated, especially this past year, and I think about my predecessors, I've been with the district, I think maybe around 17 years, so I'm not the first superintendent during my window of time here. But what I really appreciate from our board is last year and this past year, as much as any other year, we've been able to have ongoing discussions. The relationships that occur over the course of days and weeks and months, to me, are more valuable than a single evaluation because we're able to interact and grow as a team.
Okay. Very good, very good. And I guess we'll get. I guess I look at your evaluation as kind of like a evaluation of all of us. So I think we all do. If you work here and work with the superintendent, if our department, for example, the communications department works with the superintendent's department, then I feel like we're evaluated too.
Well, I have goals. That's part of the process, and so my goals become our goals, and we are a team. Where everybody works towards the ultimate mission of serving our students. And our board members are elected, and they often disagree, and that's appropriate. That's part of the democratic process. I was pleased with the results of my evaluation, but again, it's about the relationships. It's about that ongoing mission. Even in those times where they disagree, it's very important for us to refocus ourselves on our mission of serving students. We have a strategic plan in place. We expect that we'll be talking about that. It's about time for us to rebuild that strategic plan with our community because we've had a lot of changes in the last 5 years since our strategic plan went into place.
All right, very good. Speaking of that and speaking of work to do, because we do know that I don't think we ever end, like the school year ends, but we don't really ever end because once the school year ends, we start planning, we've already started planning, quite frankly, for the next school year.
Well, and that old tradition of schools shut down in the summer, it's just not true.
The old sweatshirts that say, you know, I'm a teacher because of June, July, and August. No, well, that hadn't been the case in forever.
And our teachers are officially on 10-month contracts, but it's really 200-day contracts. Teachers are doing professional development all through the summer. We now have summer school programs at the elementary, middle level, in addition to what we've traditionally thought of at the high school level. There are a lot of activities going on in our buildings. We used to have a tradition of a lot of some, major capital work on school buildings, some major cleanups, redoing the floors, that kind of thing. The scheduling of those has become much more difficult because schools are becoming year-round centers for activity, even when we're not having the formal day-to-day traditional class calendar.
It's hard to get those floors waxed. You can't do it.
It's just one example.
Yeah. But speaking of growth, opportunities to grow, things that we are going to be looking at, we heard from many students and parents, others last night during the public comment section of the board meeting, talking about really being accepting of one another. You and our leadership group, Vicki Hall, who's over human resources, we've all been working on steps to take to be better at that. We have a long way to go. I think we all know that. We are working towards certain things to do better. Talk about, and I'm not even phrasing this very well, talk about how we are looking toward the future to grow in the area of students' sense of safety in our buildings and welcoming campuses for all.
Thank you for that. I'm going to be a little bit more specific than what you spoke to because it's out there, it's on public record. We had students come and speak at public comment and specifically mention issues related to race, related to national origin, and those kinds of issues. Very important issues for our students. We, like so many others in this country and really across the world, need to continually grow in how we serve others, decency to each other. In school settings, students misbehave, students get disciplined. The purpose of discipline is to help them grow as people during the time that we're serving them. There has been a time where we might not have heard from students about discriminatory acts that they've experienced from their peers. There have been times where we might not have heard from students about issues with some of the adults serving in the building where they just missed it because they didn't have a grasp of how something might have affected a student who came from a different background from those professionals. We are growing in that way. A couple of years ago, we got some professional help that gave us some goals, gave us some recommendations. We spent this year working on some of those, and it's kind of that grow in different, in different areas, try to grow in one space while another one needs it. It's going to be a constant effort. We worked on some specific items this year. One includes developing consistency in our student handbooks, developing consistency in discipline. Another element that we've really worked on is giving avenues for students to share their experiences if they've experienced bullying behaviors, if they've experienced an inappropriate act, even by an adult, by a staff member, so that students can be comfortable. A few years ago when I became superintendent, I heard some anecdotes from students that in essence told me there have been issues, but I haven't reported them because I didn't think anything was going to be done about it. We've made some progress in that way. Now we are working on being consistent and solid enough in our response to those that students can know we're working on it. We also have started working on being proactive towards that, letting students know on the front end the expectations that each incident will be addressed appropriately for the incident and that there will be consequences. It's difficult to change human thought. We can address human behavior, but it's an ongoing effort. We have room to grow, and it is something that we continue to talk to our students about.
I'll just say that the students last night were quite impressive. I know I have to get up and speak at every board meeting, and I get nervous every time I get up there. They really articulate, just impressive in saying what they needed to say, and that takes courage to get up there in front of a bunch of adults.
We had there was a demonstration at one particular school. It was about 10 minutes during transition time. Those students let the principal know they were going to do that and speak to it. And I think about the long history in our country of that, dating back to the Vietnam era. There are painful times. Generationally, there are painful times. One of the key focus points we have is making sure that we're decent to all our students all the time. And hearing from our students helps us with that, letting their voices be heard so that we know where we need to grow.
Mm-hmm. Another discussion that didn't really happen last night but was on the agenda, it was pulled, was the late start discussion. If you can tell us where we are on that.
So I'm going to step back historically. For years, our secondary schools, middle and high schools, have had late starts, usually on Mondays. There has been a time where they call it Power Mondays. The idea behind that is we buy time in the school calendar for teachers to work together to do professional development together. We use a lot of acronyms, professional learning communities or PLCs. What we have learned over time, based on some research that really started about 30 years ago, is teachers collaborating with each other and having common assessments, common tests, common formative assessments, so that they see where their students are in mastery of the standards, and then they go back and discuss how their students did, compare their work to each other, so that students can get the benefit of all the teachers in a subject matter at a particular grade level. That work is very valuable, and we need time. We've done it at the secondary level. There's room to grow. We haven't done it at the elementary school level. So we started this discussion. We've had some committee work earlier this school year. Last month in April, I let the board know that come May, I intended to make a request related to elementary school early release time so that the elementary school teachers could have that time that the secondary teachers have had for a few years. This is the time we typically announce that and get the board to vote on our late start early release. I let them know we intended to make a request where that was going to be expanded for this month. Over the course of that discussion that started formally and very publicly at the board work session in April, to yesterday, it became very apparent that the board still needed some time to make decisions related to what was best. We had a really good presentation from our instructional team at our work session. I invite folks to look at that. As to the value of that, I've given a very short synopsis of the value of that time. Professional learning communities, common formative assessments, so that the tide can come up, that old line about the rising tide raises all boats, so that all teachers can work together to meet individual students. We need that time. So the board has reset that to June for a vote. So traditionally, students at the high school and the middle school level have started late on Monday. I think we did 27 weeks out of the school year.
We changed it to kind of late start days because it wasn't like every Monday.
Late start days. Yeah. It's not every single Monday, but it's a lot of them.
Different days of the
week. For about
maybe.
45 minutes. We are proposing something similar to elementary school. We continue to seek feedback. I know a lot of our board members have gotten some feedback. And let me tell you the final piece. We don't shrink instructional time. What we do at the middle and high school level is every school day is 7 minutes longer at middle and high currently than it is at elementary. Folks may not notice that. You may not notice 7 minutes over the course of every single day. Our plan is to extend the elementary school day 7 minutes every day and parallel that structure that we have had for years at the secondary school. So we'll be bringing that back in June. Our proposal at this point is 11 particular Wednesday afternoons where we'll release 112 minutes early, a little bit less than 2 hours, so that those elementary school teams, ELA teachers, math teachers can get together based on a very specific schedule that we've worked out so that they can find ways to help all their students master the standards a little bit better than we're already doing.
Okay. All right. More discussion will happen on that. But we do have a June meeting scheduled. There is no July meeting scheduled, so that gives us a little time to catch up, I guess, and get going. So I want to also say that communication-wise, we will be publishing on kind of a sporadic schedule. About 4 times, we'll be publishing in Focus about 4 times over the summer months. The graduation issue will be on Wednesday, June 1st, and then about every 3rd week we'll have, until it'll be back to school time already, and we'll be pushing out back to school information. So
In Focus comes. There's so much good information that In Focus. I know I'm plugging for you
Thank you.
right now.
I appreciate a plug.
I enjoy looking at the In Focus articles and just a reminder of the successes of our students. And within that In Focus are some key points too from time to time. One example is feedback related to early release, late start plans.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Our time is up. So everybody have a great end of the school year. Have a wonderful summer break. We'll be back here in June, and so we will see you then.